Hey there, and welcome back to Move with Joe. In today's lesson, we are going to be focusing on differentiating the neck, shoulders, and upper back. And we're going to use a variety of different movements in a short sequence to free up the tension, particularly in the extensor muscles in the back of the neck. So a lot of you have been contacting me about how to release some of the tension in the upper shoulders, upper neck. More often than not, people tend to experience more tightness in the lateral side and posterior neck versus the front of the neck. But this lesson will be geared at differentiating all those layers, getting you some more mobility, and reducing the tonus that accumulates over time. So let's get started with today's lesson. And as a reference movement to begin, let's just take a look at rotation. So I want you to slowly begin to rotate your head to the right just until you feel the first amount of resistance. So for me, it happens relatively quickly, that first moment where there's just a little bit more effort. Now, if you move too quickly, you'll go right past it. So slow down that first movement and just begin incrementally moving to the right until you first notice that bit of resistance. And you can just mark somewhere out on the horizon on the wall in your room, maybe it's a picture or something, just to get a reference point of how far that is. And then begin to make the same movement to the left. And you'll notice where it is that you get to going to the left. And again, you can just make a little mark somewhere on the wall with your eyes in terms of where your eyes track to. Okay, good. And just to be thorough, we can bring our head into flexion, just again, not forcing it, but noticing where the first point of restriction is. And going into extension, noticing the first bit of restriction there. And then we can try side bending the right ear towards the right shoulder and the left ear towards the left shoulder. All right. So to begin the lesson, we'll have our legs tucked, the left leg on the outside, hands on the floor behind you, and slowly begin to take the shoulders one forward, one back at a time. And as you make this movement, notice how your head moves with the movement of the shoulders. I would imagine for many of you, your head begins to move in the direction of the shoulder that's moving backwards. But for the moment, reverse it. So the shoulder that is moving forward, turn your head to. And if you're like me, it immediately is less fluid. All right. So just trying to make each one a little easier, a little bit more graceful. Working on the smoothness and the coordination between the cervical spine and the thoracic spine. The shoulders. Good. Now, for anyone that has any neck challenges, you need to move in a very small range of motion for some of these and just move within a level that is comfortable. And for those of you that don't have any problems, what we'll have you begin to do is start to tilt your head back as if to look up towards the ceiling. And then from here, you're going to start to take your head a little to the right and a little to the left. And if this is causing any type of tension or discomfort, you can take your head more onto the horizon so that there's less extension in the neck and that you're looking forward. And you can do the same thing and just moving to whatever degree of extension is comfortable for you. But if you're comfortable in a deeper amount of extension, you can take the neck to that range. And as you make this movement, I want you to move with the intention of moving the back of your head back and forth between the shoulders. And just notice how that changes the rhythm and the fluidness of the movement, the trajectory of your head. Good. Give yourself a little break. You can take your hands off the floor, give them a rest. And as you're resting, just take a couple deep breaths. If you'd like, you can just turn your head a little to the right and a little to the left and just notice if there's any slight change in the quality of the movement, the ease of the movement. And then place your hands back on the floor. And this time, place your right hand a little farther back and your left hand a little forward. And again, we'll tip the head back. And this time begin to turn the head a little to the right, a little to the left. So your nose is as if your nose was painting a line across the ceiling. And again, only moving within the range that's comfortable, not forcing your neck into too much extension. And as you go here, if it feels comfortable, you can start to do little semicircles. So if you start with your head over to the right shoulder, slowly rolling it back into extension, and rolling the left ear towards the left shoulder, and then back to the right. So you begin to roll back and forth between each shoulder. And if you are getting any types of kinking, just ease off a little bit. So take your head a little farther forward and move within a range that's comfortable. You can also just completely imagine the movement and still get value out of this exercise. So another thing that you could do is lie down on the floor and try rolling on a more supported surface on the floor. All right, so give your hands a break. Again, focus your breath. And this time, as you inhale, slowly begin to flex your chin towards your chest. And as you exhale, begin to extend the head up towards the ceiling. Exhale, begin to round the chin towards the chest. And you can start to bring more of your spine into the movement. So now as you begin to extend, begin to roll the belly forward, extending through the chest and up, out through the front of the chest, up through the front of the neck until your head comes into extension. And then begin to tuck the tail under, round the belly back, round through the chest and into flexion. And just go back and forth between these two. Good. Give that a break. And now bring your hands back onto the floor. And again, slowly begin to bring your head into extension. And we can begin to take the left ear to the left shoulder, rolling back into extension, taking the right ear towards the right shoulder. Again, no need to touch, just moving within a comfortable range. And then slowly start working the head forward into flexion. And so we'll start to make a circular movement all the way around. And so we can do this, say 4 or 5 times in the same direction. Nice and slow, noticing how when your head begins to speed up, when it begins to slow down. And you can notice, where is it that you're creating this circle from? And when do you change from rotation, side bend, extension, flexion? And then go ahead and reverse it and take it the other direction. Nice and slow, easy. You can pay attention to your breath as you make this movement and notice if there's any points where you get to a spot where you actually begin to hold your breath, or if you can keep the breath moving calmly into exhalation and inhalation. All right, good. So let that relax. Come back with your hands in front of you and begin to rotate to the right. And as you turn to look to the right, I want you to have a sense of lengthening up and out through your spine. It's almost as if you had a little hook with a string beginning to lift you as you turn to rotate. You can begin to notice that quality of slight lift as you go. Excellent. And let's just go back to our reference movement for a moment. Go ahead and turn your head to the right and notice the first point of resistance. And then again to the left, noticing the first point of resistance. Good. All right, that's a wrap. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. It's a brief lesson, but it gives you many little techniques and tools to use throughout your day when you notice that you start to develop some tension in your neck or your upper back. These movement variations will help reduce the amount of tension or tonus that accumulates in particularly the traps in the upper back and the extensor muscles of the neck. So please leave a comment. Tell me what you noticed, what you got out of today's lesson, and hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.